We talked about the extreme weather across the country. And then today, right here in Georgia, there was an earthquake that hit the town of Lincolnton. Now, around 1:15 a.m., there was the earthquake, and then there was an aftershock that rattled the ground about 15 minutes later. Apparently, that's not really unusual for that part of the country. Now, on April 7th of this year, another earthquake struck, and I guess they're just used to it. Now, Casanova Nurse joins us with details on earthquakes in Georgia. California, I understand. I was in Texas once. There was an earthquake in Texas. Georgia, really, Casanova, an earthquake?
Well, not often, but think of the earth as rafts on a body of water or a river. Okay. The rafts will just float around, and sometimes they'll bump up against each other, and they'll move around. That's kind of like what the continents are on top of the surface of the earth. Of course, when you go deep down in the earth, you get the liquefied sand and lava. So it's almost like these little rafts floating around on a deeper surface. And when they tend to collide or pull apart, that's what causes the seismic activity that triggers earthquakes.
So why are there more? Obviously, there's the San Andreas Fault, which is the largest one of those lines that we talk about, and we know that California has the preponderance of them. But couldn't they be anywhere? Do they move? Are they going from the West Coast to the East Coast in the U.S.? And are there more coming this way? Is that something that we can even tell?
Well, it's important to say that our area does not fall on a fault line, which is basically the division between those two tectonic plates. But sometimes underneath, when the composition of the earth is made up of fine particles or sediment or loose rocks, there can be some underlying movement. The epicenter of the Georgia earthquake this morning was about 7 miles below the surface. And sometimes there could be a little bit of minor movement which may trigger a little bit of vibration, a little bit of that seismic activity that was experienced. Very weak, only 2.8 on the scale, but nonetheless it does occur sometimes.
Enough to shake you, but not enough to shake stuff up so bad where you're wondering about structural integrity or things like that, right?
Yeah, not that much, but sometimes in past records there have been some strong earthquakes. Charleston, South Carolina in 1886 was one that was felt throughout much of eastern Georgia. And then, of course, many folks may be aware of the New Madrid seismic zone near Memphis, Tennessee in 1811 and 1812, a series of earthquakes that were rather significant, almost perhaps to the point of some of those big California earthquakes, for example.
Wow. Who knew that there was that much activity going on miles and miles below the earth? You think of volcanoes, but I guess moving of the earth and earthquakes, you're not really thinking about that. So.
Up and down, left and right, it can go either way.
Thank you so much. Casanova Nurse, our Chief Science Officer, with some earthquake background and why it happens in Georgia. Now, if you want to find out about earthquakes or you need information about earthquake preparedness, you can go to our website, bouncenews.tv. We'll have all the details there for you on earthquakes and how, and again, obviously this won't be on the Weather Now app, but we still got more for you. Thanks again for joining us tonight. Again, for Bounce News at 7. Have an amazing evening and an even better weekend. Good night.